Hi everybody and welcome back. Today we're going to be making a card using the Stampin' Up! Circle Thinlits die. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm using my magnetic platform along with the circle die set, and I am going to be taking a piece of black cardstock. This measures 5.5 by 8.5, and you can actually use a piece that is 5.5 by 6, which will fit perfectly into the die, but I'm going to use what's left over for some die cutting later on. So I'm lining my cardstock up onto my magnetic platform and then lining my die up with the cardstock, and I'm using the 5.5 inch side here. So I'm going to go ahead and then run this through my Big Shot. So I have my little piece left over. I'm just going to set that aside, and I'm going to set my card aside. I'll do the scoring on that later on. And what I'm going to do next is, using the same circle die, I'm going to go ahead and use some paper from the Designer Series paper set called Modern Medley. And I'm using the same circle card die, and I'm going to go ahead and line that up and run that through my Big Shot as well. So I have my Designer Series paper, and what I'm going to do now is take a circle die from the Circles collection set, and I'm going to use the die that's 2 3/4 inches. I'm just looking here to see which one would work. It's a little bit bigger than the circle that cuts out with the circle die, so I'm just lining that up and kind of centering it, and then I'll go ahead and run that through my Big Shot as well. Using the magnetic platform makes that much easier to do. All right, so I ran that through. The next thing I'm going to do is grab one of the smaller circles. This one measures 2 3/8, and it's a little bit smaller than the circle that actually is cut out with the circle die, the circle card die, and I'm going to run that through, and I'm also going to run that same size through on some vanilla cardstock. So when you cut out your circle card die, it creates your score lines. So I went ahead and did the folding of my card, and I found it easiest if I just folded in half and then folded back the second half on the second score line. And that creates your little fold where you have your circle that pops front and back. So the next thing I'm doing is taking my pattern paper, and I'm cutting off about 1/8 inch on all 4 sides, and that's going to be able to create a little extra edge, so I have a little edge going around my card. And I'm going to go ahead and fold this on my score line, and I'm doing this so that I can also cut this down about 1/8 inch shorter than the score line. So I'm putting it in my paper trimmer and just sliding it over 1/8 inch from the score mark, and then I'll go ahead and trim that down. And again, doing the second fold, I'm going to fold it on the score line, and then again cut it 1/8 inch shorter on that side as well. So that created a little matte area for the front of my card. I'm just going to go ahead and put some adhesive on the back of that Designer Series paper and line it up onto the panel of my card. And you'll see that it creates a little bit of an edge, about 1/8 or 1/4 inch, because we trimmed off 1/8 inch on each side. And it's going to leave a nice little border going around. And then using that larger circle die, also did the same thing with the circle. So if you hadn't done that and just trimmed it off on the sides, you wouldn't have the little edge going around the outside of the circle. So I'm just lining that piece up, making sure that it's straight and adhering it down. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and adhere down that circle that I cut out using the 2 3/8 circle die. And that's the same pattern paper that I used for the front of my card. And I'm just going to go ahead and line up the pattern before I set it down and adhere it right to that circle. I'm also going to take the piece of Very Vanilla that I cut out using that same size and put that on the back side of that circle. I also cut out some black cardstock using the 1 7/8 inch circle. So I cut out 2 pieces of that, but first I'm going to go ahead and start doing my stamping. I'm going to use some more Very Vanilla, and I'm using 2 stamp sets here. I'm going to use the Sketched Birthday and the Yippee Skippy stamp sets. So for my image from the sketched birthday, I'm using my black Stamp-A-Rite marker, and I'm going to use this so I can do multiple colors. Well, actually, I'm just going to do 2 colors. And I'm going to go ahead and color in the sentiment black. And then I'm going to take some of the Raspberry Ripple ink and do the outside and the cupcake. So I'm just going to do a little breathing on my stamp to get the ink moist again, and then I'm going to stamp that out onto my very vanilla cardstock. I'm using the 1 3/4 inch circle punch. I have an older style punch. I've had it for a long time. And then I'm going to take my sentiment from Yippee Skippy and stamp that out using some black StazOn ink. And then I'll also punch that out using the scallop circle punch. I'm going to start off by adhering my sentiment to that black circle, and that's the one that measures 1 7/8. I'm just going to take that and then adhere that to the inside of my card. So I'm just putting that onto the back side of the circle, which is the one that has the very vanilla cardstock. And I'm just going to center that right in the center. I'm also taking the other black circle and I'm going to put that into the front of the card. I'm going to go ahead and add a dimensional to the back of my stamped image and then center that right into the middle of my black circle cardstock. And that's my card for today. You can also add a little bit of seam binding to this. I didn't do it in the video because it took me a while to get that one perfect, but this card will also fit into a standard A2 size card envelope. So thanks for watching. As always, a list of supplies will be over on my blog or in the description of this video. And if you missed my last video, you can go ahead and watch it here. Just click on where it says click here to watch.